look at these lovely potatoes. They're coming up so nicely. I mean, look at that. Nice big potato plants. What's up, guys? Welcome out to another beautiful day. Man, look at that lovely morning. It's a little breezy, a little cool. It was super hot last week. It was like 90 degrees, which is really weird for May. But now it's June, and we have to get the water turned on. So all of our potatoes, if I don't fall in the canal, all of our potatoes, oh, come on. I might be able to do this one-handed. Maybe that's the wrong way. There we go. But all of our potatoes need water. So I have to turn this ditch on. This is the ditch I've turned on previously in other videos. But I gotta turn this ditch on because it takes like 4 hours for the water to actually get to the pivot. And I wanna be able to turn this on at around noon. So I gotta get this. It takes a while when I'm only using one-handed. I gotta get this opened up. And then I'll go start up a bunch of other pivots while I wait for the water to get to this one. I don't want to open it up too much. I'll have to count the threads. Today's gonna be a day of turning on pivots and unplugging drops and yeah, just a whole bunch of that type of stuff. We got to get the water on potatoes. I think so far, I think we've handled all the problems. Everything's done. We have some hay down still that we're trying to bale, but and I'll probably show you some of the baling today. I imagine they're baling this morning. It hasn't wanted to dry out. So that's been one problem we've had with the bales. So with the bales, and I guess that's a common problem. We've never really baled hay, but I guess that's a common problem with first crop hay. It doesn't usually want to bale. Our ditch is filling up. I can see the water running down. But it's gonna take a while to get there. It only has to go about 1.5 miles, but apparently that's a long ways for water to flow down a ditch. But anyway, back to the hay. It hasn't wanted to dry. So it has been probably about a week actually, since we raked it. And we've raked it and we fluffed it. And then been really hot and dry and windy, and it was hot and windy yesterday. And so we're hoping that it has dried out enough that we can bale it today. We have about 300 bales done that are a little too wet, but they'll be okay, they'll dry out. But I guess, yeah, common problem with first crop hay is it just never dries out. So hopefully we can get that baled this week. If we can, I've got some other things going on that I'll film later this week, but that all depends on if we can get the hay baled and all the pivots going and all the water on without any breakdowns and without any problems. Shop, had to gather some supplies, got a ladder in the back, got a grease gun to grease all the pivot centers because you want to make sure those get greased and they don't go bad. That'd be really bad. So we got some stuff to service the pivots and some wire and things to unplug nozzles. So now we're gonna go start pivots. I have 8 pivots to start, so we'll go to the easiest one first. Here at the first field, I gotta make sure I turn these valves closed. Oh, well, if it'll close all the way. Oh, I don't know if it will. That's about as good as it's gonna get. and then turn this back to auto so it'll run with the pivot. Because this has a pivot and hand lines, so they run the hand lines separate. So I just gotta make sure to switch it when I turn the pivot back on. And also, this end gun wasn't working the last time we ran it, and they were supposed to have fixed it. So hopefully it's all fixed. We will see. I mean, everything looks fine from here, but it's kind of hard to tell. Now this pivot is probably the easiest one for me to start right now because, well, it's one that we've been running for a long time. All the rest of my pivots are new to me this year, so it'll be kind of a learning experience. I have to turn this one off too. That goes to more hand lines. Make sure my valve is open. This pivot also is easy because it has, instead of metal drops or poly drops, it actually has, they're hoses. So these nozzles like never plug up. So ideally I can turn this one on. Sometimes I have to walk out here and spin one of the little spinners because it just gets stuck. But that's usually all I gotta do. We're just gonna go forward, auto reverse. The pump should be kicking on. And I think that rate is still what I want. So now we're just going to wait for the pump to kick on. Usually this valve goes. We'll see if that does that. Whew. Scares me every time. The reason that valve does that is because it hits with all the pressure. So if that valve wasn't there, this main line would explode. Because it takes a minute for this valve to open and let the water go up into the pivot. Now that right there is usually what happens on this first one, but sometimes as it gets pressure they all start to spin, but I may have to walk out here and flick one of the little things and get them spinning. It also seems like almost every episode for the past like 5 episodes since we planted potatoes has just been disaster after disaster and just fixing all these problems. Hopefully this one is just, let's start the pivots up and water this lovely wheat and some potatoes. I do have one that isn't spinning, so I'm gonna set you guys up right here, and I'm gonna walk over there and spin that little dilly. Luckily these ones don't get me too wet. Now if I had to go down there, those ones really get you wet. Bigger nozzles. Okay, we're out here at my second pivot I'm turning on. And look at these lovely potatoes. They're coming up so nicely. I mean, look at that. Nice big potato plants. They look so good. What's crazy is these potatoes were barely poked through less than a week ago. So we have some fields that the potatoes weren't even coming through yet, and all of a sudden there was the last 3 days it hit almost 90 degrees and all the potatoes poked through, and they all look like this. Like they all just look awesome. Now this field does have some quack grass out here that we're gonna have them spray. I don't know when they're gonna spray it, but they are gonna spray it and kill all that, because that will suck moisture away from the potatoes. It'll hurt the potatoes. But I'm gonna get out here and we're gonna get this pivot started. Hopefully there's no plugged ones, but that is not usually the case. Okay, I just finished greasing it. There's grease points on the centers because this just spins around and around and around all year long, and you got to grease it or else it'll wear out. So you have to grease here. There's also gearboxes and tires that you have to check, and check the oil and check the air and just make sure they're not flat. But you can see my pivot is kind of at an angle. I want it to be closer to straight with this road when I start it. So I can check and see if there's any plug nozzles. If there is, then I've got the ladder if I need it. This one looks like the drops are long enough that I can just walk over and unplug them, but yeah, I want it to be a little bit closer when I start it so I can actually unplug nozzles. But this one does have these poly drops. So when I say the drop, I'm going to be saying that a lot today. I talk about there's different parts. So this is your nozzle. This is your flow control. This piece above it. This controls how many PSI comes out of this. This one has a shut-off valve. And then this piece is your drop. And it goes up and connects to the metal, we call it a gooseneck. So it connects to the gooseneck that's on top. And yeah, the ones that have these poly drops or the rubber hoses, they don't plug up very often. If they plug up, you have to unscrew this guy, and then this is actually your nozzle. So that's your nozzle. And usually they plug up in that nozzle because it's a little tiny hole. So if they're plugged, they're usually in that nozzle. This one's nice because it does have the shutoffs to be able to turn the flow off to this when it's on and clean that nozzle. Sometimes you can get a wire up in here and just poke a wire up in there in that nozzle and scrape it out, and usually it'll blow everything out that's in there and you can go. But yeah, that's essentially what a pivot is and how it waters and what the different parts are. So I'm actually going to go get this started and we'll see if there's any plugged ones. Okay, I need to go in here. Oh no, let's go back. Done. And we're going to do 7/10. Okay, is that just the speed? And then we're actually going to stop it. And then we're going to go forward, start with pump. Now we have 200 seconds, it says right there. And I just heard water, so there's already water here. There you go, that first nozzle's already on. And they're spraying, so I'm gonna turn around, drive down here, and look for any plug nozzles. So I'm just looking to see if any of these look like they're weak. Like that one kind of looks a little weak. I might go check it. Granted, it is still turning on. Usually it's the first two spans that will plug the easiest because they have smaller nozzles. But for now, it looks good. Well, there was a few plugged ones out there. And you can see I'm a little bit wet. I would have been a lot more wet, but my jacket got the most of it. You get soaked cleaning out pivots. Just cleaning one or two nozzles, because you just get blasted by the two nozzles next to the one you're cleaning out. And then once you get the one you're cleaning out done, it just blasts you right in the face. And then all over your back as soon as you walk away. Let's go start some more. Another thing I had to come check, that I have to check on all of my pumps that have these upright pumps, is the drip oil. So this is the pond that this pump pumps out of. But these pumps all have this little drip oil tank. We usually have a jug of drip oil. Now, drip oil, we have this dripper. And you can see the drop right there and there. Now you want to have it set so it drops one drop of oil about every 5 to 10 seconds. That is just lubricating the shaft down there. This hose goes down in there. It just lubricates the pump so that it doesn't wear out. So on all the ones that have this type of pump, I have to check and make sure that they have drip oil while they're running, because if you don't, you're gonna burn up your pump. And you don't wanna do that because they're a lot of money. But anyway, on to the next one. want to see if there's any water in the ditch. Should be coming any time in the next hour. Yeah, ditch is still dry. But within the next hour, this ditch should be full, which should give me enough time. There's a whole bunch of plug drops. I got to go get my ladder out and go unplug. Well, I got the ladder and walked all the way out to the pivot, cleaned a few nozzles, and realized I left you guys in the side-by-side. Silly me. Well, you're back, so let's clean out some nozzles. So these nozzles, they plug up because of rust, and that's it. So these drops on this pivot are metal all the way up. I don't know what kind of metal. I think they're probably galvanized. They look like galvanized steel, but I'll show you here in a minute when I get this open how bad it is. So I've marked that this was one of them that was plugged. So let me open it up and see if it actually is. So these ones, because of the rust, they plug up here in the, oh yeah, this one's really bad. Let's look at this. This is what it looked like when I opened it up. So you can see all that crap in there. So it is just packed full of rust. So if we tap that out, now it's clean. You can see in there. Then also the nozzle, if we open this up, the nozzle is also full of rust. But I have this wire here. Sorry if the angle's weird. I have this wire here that I use to clean the nozzles out, and it's just got a chunk of rust stuck in it. Okay, nozzle is clear. The other spot that it can get rust in it is inside. Oh, if I can get it off. These things are really stiff. Inside here on the other end of the flow control, and in there. But looks like we got it all. But there's one more thing we need to do before we put it back on. We need to tap this and see. Yeah, see all that rust coming out? Yeah. Once I see that there's not much rust coming out, okay, there's still rust coming out. Oh, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of rust coming out of this one. Okay, I don't see any more coming out. I don't hear any more coming out. But it's just rust from right there all the way down this pipe. That's the rust. So what I've found is in the spring, if I can bang on this and get all the rust that's just flaking off in there out now, then a lot of times it won't plug up the rest of the year. Now I've already done most of this pivot and I've started it once, and these ones weren't plugged and now they're plugged. So there's just a couple plugged ones. I'm going to go through and do that and put it back together, and hopefully by then there's water in that ditch and we can either start the pivot or we can start the solid set, because the corners of this field are all solid set. And I haven't decided what I want to start first. Now I just got to put the drop back on and try not to drop my camera at the same time. So I think after this year, we've decided we're going to replace all these drops. We're going to have them all replaced because the threads are getting so rusty that some of these drops have blown off and almost won't go back on because the threads are bad. But if we put poly drops on this pivot would be 100 times better. So I think that's what we're going to do after this year. Okay, so I basically decided that I'm not going to start the pivot right now because it has all these solid sets in the corners of the hand line. So I'm gonna run all the solid set for 6 hours, then I'll come start the pivot, I'll turn the solid set off. That's my plan. We'll see if it works. Okay, so here's one corner. So this is a whole corner where it doesn't fit, the pivot misses, and they've solid setted this whole thing. So I'm gonna go along and open up all the valves, and we might just have to run one corner, and then there's another corner on the other side of this field. We might have to run them one set on this corner, one set on the other corner, and then the pivot. But we'll see. It's kind of a trial and error. We've never run the system, so we don't know what it will handle. We'll just open this up. Pretty decent amount. We want it to get plenty of water. And I just hope that none of these hook and latch things come undone. So I'm gonna walk down here and open all this up. Okay, so I changed my mind. I'm gonna start the pivot first, and then we'll do the hand lines later this week, because let's see, we need the pump. I want to see if the pump will actually turn on. Because none of the hand lines are flushed and half of them have come unhooked, and I don't have a whole lot of help right now, so we're just gonna do the pivot first, and then when the pivot's off later this week, hopefully we'll have more help with everybody else will be done with the hay, and we can come and flush these and get the hand lines turned on. But they were supposed to have fixed this so the pump will turn on with the pivot. So that's what I'm testing right now to see if I can actually get it to turn on, because it wasn't working last time. Okay, I ran down to make sure the pump is actually on, and it is running, and we have water running out of here. The nozzles are kind of pulsing. It looks like it's starting to go. Okay, well, it is on. There's a couple of plugged ones, not very many. So all the ones I cleaned out were on the end 3 or 4 spans. So on the inside ones, there's a few plugged ones, but there's like one plugged one, and then the next one, the ones on either side are both unplugged and going. So it'll get water, and then once it shuts off, I've marked them, so I'll come back out because I have to take the flow controls off and everything. And this thing's running at 80 PSI, which is actually a lot. But I'm just gonna let it run in water. It should get good water even though there's a couple plugged ones. And then when it shuts off, I'll come out and I'll unplug those ones for the next time I start it up. But we are rolling, we're going. Also, I don't know why, but somebody graffitied our tank. It wasn't like that when we brought it out a week ago. But yeah, we're rolling. Shouldn't have too many issues. They're gonna come out, because I couldn't figure out those hand lines. I don't know what was the deal. So our professional pipe movers from Mexico that are awesome, and they are the best at moving pipe and making sure everything is working correctly with that. They're gonna come out and they're gonna make sure they're all hooked up right and flushed and all that stuff, and they're gonna see what they can turn on and off. Because with 80 PSI on this pivot, we should definitely be able to run some pipe with the pivot for sure. But yeah, I'm gonna go start up another pivot. Hopefully it's not as big a hassle as this one. All right, well, pivot number, I don't even know which one. The next one's on. I think that is pivot number 4 for the day. It's on, it's over there, it's going. That's the one that has a skunk sitting underneath the concrete base for the pivot center. So it's a little sketchy turning that one on. But I'm just coming over here where all the panels are. I have one other pivot to turn on, but I wasn't sure if I turned it on from here. Looks like I do. So I can run that pivot from here instead of having to go out into the field. So let's get this one turned on. Okay, I just think I turned it on, but it's not turning on. Man, new systems are complicated. The light is on, it says it's going forward, but the pump's not on. I'm not sure what to do. I'm gonna do some troubleshooting. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I think I got it on. At least the pump turned on. I'm gonna run out to the pivot center and make sure there's nothing out there that I have to turn on, because I'm not entirely sure what I'm supposed to turn on or off. But I'm gonna check things out here. There is a valve right here. Let me see if that's open. I don't know. It says it's open. Yeah, it's open. Yeah, that's all the way open. So that valve is open. So it is putting water out. Okay, I can see the pivot is now on. Sweet. I'm gonna drive out there and make sure there's no plugged nozzles. And then I need to figure out, there's a solid set over here in this little square part. And I don't know if that runs with the pivot or by itself. I imagine it runs with the pivot. And the only thing that makes me believe that is that there's not a time clock on this pump panel. Usually if the hand lines run by themselves or can run by themselves, there would be a time clock. Now there is a time clock on this one, but this isn't even on. So I don't know what this is even for, because that is not for this system, I do not believe. Just coming over here to this pivot, I only had to unplug one nozzle, and it was really easy. So, looks like this is all working. All right, these two pivots are going. I had to take a brief intermission, didn't film it, had to go over to another pivot that I had already started because it was having problems, and got it going again. Turned the ditch up some more so it didn't run out of water. And now I'm headed over to the last 3 pivots on this one field, and hopefully I can get them done pretty quickly because the end of the day is nearing soon. So, see you there. Well, I know I'm not out here. I'm going to do pivots, but I was just driving by and noticed that they're out here. Josh and Trevor are out here picking up all the bales. So they're getting the bales all picked up, loaded up off this hay field so we can get it going again. And I think Christopher is still in the field on the other side of this baling. So that's what everybody else has been doing today, is baling and loading and stacking hay. And yeah, I still have pivots to get going. Well, this field is where all the last 3 pivots are. I just need to check and see. So they all have these, that's a water bladder valve. And on this valve, it has an electric solenoid that opens it up and lets water pass through this. I just wanted to make sure they were on auto, because if they're not, and I turn on like the hand lines, then the pivots will want to fill up. And I think I can run the hand lines by themselves without the pivots. So we're gonna go make sure all the bladders are on auto, so they will only turn on with the pivot, and we'll start these 3 pivots. Hopefully all goes well. Now this pivot is really, really old. It has been updated though. That is on auto. It's all been updated. It's a super old pivot, but it's updated with the new Renke system and whatever. I guess partially updated. This one actually has, if you can see these little cables right here, it's got these cables and they stretch all the way to the end. And when those cables move, if it touches, there's like a little sensor. If the cable touches, that's how it knows it's out of line and shuts off. But I don't know. We've never had one like this. This is a really old one. I guess we'll see how it goes. It has some really old tires on it as well. This is the one that had those super cracked tires. And it's got a couple weird tires. It's got a couple tires that are smooth and just has like a metal plate bolted onto it every so often. So, a little strange, but I mean, we watered it around once and it worked fine, so hopefully it doesn't have any problems. If it does, we'll fix it, I guess. On to the next one. And here's the final pivot. And this one's bladder is also on auto. So this is a valve that goes to a solid set. So right now it's off, but when we water the solid set, we'll have to come turn that valve on, and yeah, that's gonna be a learning experience too. But I've got the grease gun. I gotta climb to the top of this pivot, and I forgot to do the other 2 as well, so I'll have to go do those and grease them. You gotta grease the pivots every year. You don't wanna wear them out. Hey, I got you a little waterfall. Hope you enjoy it. I gotta make sure this is open. Okay, yes, it is open all the way. Ditch is full. Let's go see if we can start this thing. It should be fairly straightforward. I've done it once before. We got these 3 panels. Luckily right now we are not pumping fertilizer yet, but these are Norcotas that we're growing, and they like fertilizer early. So next week we will be pumping fertilizer, but only for about a month. And then we're shutting the fertilizer off. I guess that's what you have to do with Norcotas. All right, I've got all the panels open. Now, if I remember, I got to start the little one, then the big one, then the other little one. So let me start pushing some buttons and see if I can get it to turn on. Okay, I think I've got them all set. I got to turn on pump. And that turned on. And pump. Okay. Pump is on all 3 of them. Now, normally, these pivots have a start sequence thing where you just push start sequence and it just waits, and then once it has enough pressure, then they all go. But because these, how you have to turn them on in order so they don't, well, you don't blow up the main line or mess something up, the start sequence doesn't exist on these ones. So I have to wait until I see them all going and then hit for them to move, or else they'll start moving without water. And yeah, we want the potatoes to have water, so I gotta watch them. Once I see water coming out of them, then I can hit for them to start moving. We should be good to go. All right, this one's going. I just hit the button to make it go, so I can close this panel. That one should be good to go. I cannot see water on that far. Oh, okay, I can see water coming out the far one a little bit. And I can't see any water on this one. Okay, I can see the water starting to come out. So I can probably set that one to go, which is this one, which is reverse start. Come on, start. There, that one's going. And I can see water is almost to the end of that one, so I'm gonna hit, let's see, this one is already over there. This one's also going in reverse. Start. All right, they are all going and watering. Sweet. This was the easiest field to do. Well, I'm glad the last one was the easiest because the third one was the hardest. Good grief. But they're all going. I'm just gonna run around and kind of check and make sure all the nozzles are good. Just from looking from here, I can see that the nozzles are all good. I know you guys can't. This camera has a really wide angle lens, and yeah, it makes it so you can't see far very well. It also flattens everything. Like back here, there's mountains over there, but you can probably barely even see them. It's crazy. It's crazy what a camera can do. But yeah, I'm gonna go check these pivots and make sure there's no plug nozzles. All right, guys. Well, before I go, there was one question that had to do with all this watering stuff, so I thought I'd answer it right here. So in one of the previous episodes, I talked about calling for water. So 2 days before we're supposed to turn our water on, we're supposed to call the irrigation district and just say, hey, in 2 days we're going to be turning this canal, or we're turning this ditch on, or we're turning the pump on, so that we can water our field. The reason we have to do that is because they don't like to run everything at full capacity all the time. Because, well, we don't want to have a water shortage and all this stuff. Like, there's curtailment stuff going on right now anyway, so they try to do a pretty good job managing it. When I said we called for water, that means we called and said, hey, we're going to be turning this on 2 days, so they could turn that canal up just a little bit, so that when we opened our ditch, it didn't draw it down for somebody downstream, so they didn't have water. So if the pivots and stuff are going to be running constantly, we only have to call for water once. And as long as they're not off for more than 2 days, we don't have to do it again. But like these, we ran them, and then they were off for a while, for about 2 weeks, and now they're back on. So we called for water like last weekend on Saturday. Today's Monday, and now we're able to turn them all on because we called for water. We made sure that everything had water when we needed to turn it on. But anyway, guys, all my pivots are running miraculously. It is almost quitting time, so I do have to go check a couple more things. I need to go check that ditch that I opened up because it sucked it dry and then came back, so I need to go check that. But pretty much I'm done for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me on this adventure of trying to figure out how to run all these new pivot systems, because these are all, other than 2 of them, they're all new to me. So it's pretty crazy that we have all these new systems this year, but they all worked pretty good. We have one system that's going to be a headache all year, and yeah, that's the one I had to unplug all the nozzles on, and the one with the ditch and all that. So that one's going to be kind of a headache. It probably won't be once I figure it out, but for now it's a headache. But I'm just glad that everything's working. Everything's on, everything's running. All the nozzles are unplugged. The taters are getting watered. So yeah, if you want to join the RMF club, go down, fill out the form down below. We send out stickers once a week to a few people on that list. And we're gonna make sure that everybody on that list gets stickers before we send out any more stickers. So once we send out stickers to everybody on that list, we're gonna design some new stickers and start sending out stickers again. And just keep sending them out every week. So if you guys enjoyed it, make sure to go down below, hit subscribe if you haven't already. We're gonna be doing a lot of watering stuff for the next couple months until wheat harvest comes on. So I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.